Welcome back to my little channel. Today we're going to talk about France politics. No, not friends. France, the country, France. I know my pronunciation is terrible, but I can live with it, so I hope you can too. Anyway, so they're voting in a new president, and one of the candidates is a woman. So how many left-wing ideologues do you think are promoting the I stand with her rhetoric? Would it be surprising to you if the answer to that is zero? Because the woman in this case is Marine Le Pen, and people claim that she's literally Hitler. Never mind the fact that Hitler was a guy, never mind that at all. And yes, okay, Front National used to be a very nationalistic party. It isn't as much, but it still has very strong nationalistic tendencies. But then, in a country where the previous president said we have to get used to living with terror attacks, it's normal, it's going to happen, can you blame that country for becoming more nationalistic? The left, once again, doesn't get it. And one of the spokespersons of the left, I don't know if he's really a spokesperson, but he speaks for the left, is John Oliver. Remember how he once said, "I dare you, Donald Trump, run for president so we can have a laugh," and he stopped laughing? Well, now he has the same with Marine Le Pen. So basically he's not saying run for president Marine Le Pen, he's basically saying, no people, don't vote for her, because she's the worst. But is she really?
The Republicans better have something pretty special up their sleeve if they're going to try and beat what they did last time.
Donald Trump, just last week, he confirmed to the National Review that he is again considering a run in 2016.
Do it. Do it. Look at me. Do it. I will personally write you a campaign check now on behalf of this country, which does not want you to be president, but which badly wants you to run.
Ugh, so?
Yes, Franny, I know, you're going to work for Comedy Central, and so you need to be good with these guys. But in a way, you could say that John Oliver wanted him, Trump, to run for president. So he got what he wanted. But he didn't want him to win, so he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't realize the world he was living in. And we are seeing the same with his rhetoric towards Le Pen now.
Well, not exactly.
Well, obviously not exactly. I mean, he challenged Trump to run for president. He didn't challenge Marine Le Pen. But in a way, he's looking at the same thing and tries the same attitudes towards it, whilst thinking that might actually change something. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm neither a fan of Marine Le Pen, nor was I a fan of Trump. I felt the need to defend him, though, because American politics is pretty fucked up, and there's a reason why I preferred Trump over Hillary Clinton. And in all fairness, I have the same if I look at France now. I don't like the candidates very much, but out of the two, Le Pen seems the better one. Makes you wonder about the rest of the politics, I guess. But yeah, that's how it is. So why are you trying to interfere in politics in France? And don't get me wrong, I'm 100% sure that the stories will be how Russia interfered in the election in France as well. But why do you think you have a right to talk about what the French people vote in? Remember that France at this point in time has a huge problem with terrorism. And only one candidate seems to be dead set on doing something about it. So I guess a lot of people want that terrorism to end. I guess this is a good thing for Le Pen. Makes you wonder why the other guy isn't saying the same thing. But then again, he's left, so I guess therein lies the problem. And I used to consider myself left.
So maybe we should just get fucking rid of him.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can get rid of a group of people because of their political ideologies. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, and I really think that's the wrong approach. I mean, we should get more people willing to discuss their political affiliations. But in the left, that's a bad idea. But I'm glad you agree with me that this is at least an issue, Franny.
That's rather self-serving.
Isn't that the thing about politics, though? You vote for the things you think your country needs, and, well, you yourself need. I mean, why the hell would you vote for something that could harm you? That's, of course it's self-serving. That's just a stupid remark. Sorry, Steve. But let's get back to John Oliver. What was it that he said about Marine Le Pen? Well, here he goes.
Next Sunday, France holds the first round of its presidential election. And if you're thinking, well, why should I care about that? The truth is, it is way more important than you might realise.
It's a very important election, what's going to happen in France. It's the future of Europe, basically.
Overwhelmingly, France is the election that matters.
Well, these French elections take place at the crossroad of European history. It's really defining Europe's fate.
That's right. The fate of Europe rests in the hands of a country that looks at snails and says, I have got to get you in my mouth.
Yeah, you see, John, I know you like to think that Europe is this great thing, but more and more countries and more citizens are recognizing that Europe is not a great thing. It could have been, it definitely could have been, but it's a top-heavy bureaucratic entity that doesn't care about its citizens. How do we know? Well, look at the refugee crisis, the way it's been handled. Look at how the trade agreements are being handled. They don't care about its citizens. We, as citizens of Europe, we have very little to say about what happens in Europe. Yes, we can vote in Euro parliamentarians, tongue breaker, I know, every once in a while, but even those have nothing to say, really. I mean, they can vote in other people, and then when they want to say something, if they get to say something, it often gets ignored. I can still remember how the Dutch were allowed to have a referendum on the Ukraine trade agreement, and if the Dutch were against it, well, then it wouldn't happen. And the Dutch were against it. Guess what? They're still working on it, and they want to make it happen. But the Dutch said no. Yeah, but the rest said yes. Well, that's not really true. The rest didn't say yes. The rest didn't get asked. And therein lies the problem with the European Union. They claim to be democratic, but they're not. Anyway, so yes, France may decide, if Le Pen wins, to leave the European Union. Give it a few months, I think, and Italy would do the same, by the way. Never mind that. So, leaving the European Union is a bad thing? Oh, Great Britain did it. Yeah, but now the European Union is about to collapse. Good, because that's what needs to happen. This European Union isn't working. Will another European Union work? I don't know. We have to try. I really think we have to try, because I do believe that a united Europe is better. But not in this way.
But it is not an exaggeration to say that post-Brexit, and with a wave of far-right populism sweeping Europe, the fate of the EU may hang on this election. Multiple candidates support a French Brexit, and the consequences of that would be steep.
And frankly, it's not bragging, but if France is out of the EU, it's the end of the EU.
Well, he may be right. If France chooses to kick the bucket that is called EU, then yeah, the EU is finished. But let's be honest, even if France doesn't choose to do that, Italy is next in line. And guess what?
And this election comes at a time of great volatility. France has suffered a string of major terror attacks, their unemployment rate is hovering around 10%, and their current president, François Hollande, isn't even running for a pretty good reason.
The latest opinion polls have come out. Francois Hollande is at an all-time low. I mean, he even got close to zero here, didn't he?
Get ready for it. According to this poll, only 4% of French people are satisfied by François Hollande's presidency. 4%.
4%?
Well, as I said earlier, telling people that they have to learn to live with terrorist attacks is never a good idea. And he did kind of push the line of the European Union a lot, which basically costs his population a lot of hassle. And they don't get reimbursed for that hassle, I will say. So, yeah, this is what happens when left-wing people keep pushing their narrative so far that everyone around them is telling them, what the fuck are you doing? But hey, they're not allowed to talk, because if they do, they're fascists and literally Hitler. And that's where Marine Le Pen steps in. And from here on out, John talks about the political candidates for the presidency of France. Most of them I don't really care about, but then again, he hasn't had a good word for any of them, and he ends with the two biggest pullers, so to speak, the ones that have the biggest chance of actually becoming president, and they did both succeed in winning the first round. Marine Le Pen and Macron. Macron is a banker, a young banker with zero experience in politics, which kind of is like Trump, like that, but he's pretty much globalistic. And he does seem to say that he wants to make France better and he wants to get more jobs and whatnot. But I'm sorry, he's a banker first, and that somewhat worries me. I mean, not a lot of good came from bankers, in my humble opinion. I could be wrong, feel free to point out where I am wrong, but that's how I think about it. One of the main things John had to point out was that he is married to his old teacher. He's 30 years old and he has 7 grandchildren because, well, his teacher wife already had children of roughly his age. So yeah, that is interesting, I won't lie. Not that I really care about what he does within his house, is up to him. And of course, he had to talk about Le Pen, because Le Pen is a huge problem, because Front National was started by Jean-Marie Le Pen, and, well, basically he was a right-wing extremist. But Marine Le Pen isn't really a right-wing extremist. For Americans, most Americans would still consider her left-wing. But don't get me wrong, because of course American politics is mostly right-wing anyway. Even the left ones are right, according to Europe. But then again, according to the Antifa and extreme left ideologues in America, Marine Le Pen, of course, is right-wing, because she doesn't really care to be nice. If you would call her a racist, she would say, yeah, so what? And I agree with her on that. She really wants to make France better for the French. Now, I'm not French, so that's not in my favor, but I can understand that. We need to stop looking over the borders. If our own house is in order, then we can start looking over the borders. But we have to get our own house in order. And Marine Le Pen really wants to focus on that. So why, John, do you think that's a bad idea? Doesn't it fit with the leftist ideology of a borderless global world where we are all neighbors and friends and whatnot? Because in all fairness, France is living proof that we aren't there. Because France has a huge problem with terrorism, has a huge problem with foreigners coming into the country unwilling to become part of the country. And yes, she speaks out against that. Can you really blame her? I can't. I seriously can't. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not sure whether she will be a good president. Time will tell. It's not even sure that she will win. I think she will. If she doesn't, it's too bad. It doesn't save European Union though, because the European Union is, unfortunately, already on its way out. And so am I. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Like, share and subscribe if you feel so inclined. Criticism, whether positive or negative, as always, is more than welcome. Are we in favor of Marine Le Pen? I'm not. I'm in favor of no politician at all. But we already have politicians, so we might as well get the ones that serve their country. Yeah, as I said, like, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you all next time.